Content Chapter 7. Stoke the campfire. Have you ever had the joy of building a campfire and then sitting around it with friends and family, enjoying its warmth, the camaraderie, and the instant community? It is the perfect place for giggles, sharing stories, and forming lifelong friendships. It doesn't matter if it one's at summer camp or one in your backyard. Since people first discovered how to make fire, campfires have brought us together. Are you wondering what exactly setting wood on fire has to do with the subject of this book? Well, a campfire is an apt metaphor to embody the step that so many companies skip over. When they do, they are left wondering why no one is engaging with their awesome content. Just because you create welcoming content does not mean that people are going to immediately sit next to it to be warmed. Even when people start gathering, you will need to keep their attention so that they don't leave. If you are still skeptical about the metaphor, stick with us for a few more pages and it will become clearer. How to build a fire. Before you can embrace the metaphor, you need to know the basics of how to build a real fire in 5 steps. Content and survival techniques in one book. Bet you didn't expect that. 1. Start with small, easily ignited branches and twigs tinder, and pile them in the middle of where you want to build a fire. 2. Surround the tinder with bigger sticks in a teepee fashion, allowing plenty of space for air to circulate. Don't forget that fire needs fuel and air to continue burning. 3. Light the fire from multiple sides, and allow it to grow slowly. A quick flare-up is exciting, but it also bums out very quickly. 4. Once the fire is going, add larger, longer burning logs that will provide continual warmth without needing much tending. 5. Adjust the logs in the fire every so often to keep it interesting. Add fuel as necessary. Your content campfire. Now that you know how to build a basic campfire, we can move on to helping you build one for the content you are creating. As you know, content comes in lots of different types, styles, formats, and sizes. It is essential, therefore, to establish a solid foundation for your content strategy rather than randomly gathering content and hoping it all ignites in the end. Campfires give both warmth and an instant community. Cowboys on the open plains would start a campfire and everyone would gather around it. Some might come for supper. Others to sing songs, others just to be with other people in the lonely prairie. Similarly, you need to welcome others to your content campfire, however long they initially stay. The more welcomed your visitors feel, the longer they will stay, the more they will invite others to visit, and the more often they will come back. And that is your main goal. Start with the small stuff. Remember the tinder you needed to get a fire started. Small, highly combustible items that catch on quickly and help ignite the bigger stuff. There is no magic prescription that will point you in the right direction, but here are some ideas to get you going. Go off and search for tinder. Visit other blog posts, videos, or other online content that's related to your industry, keywords, or topics, and leave appropriate comments on them. Don't be spammy, of course. The key is to leave thoughtful comments on what's been created, and to invite readers to check out your stuff as well. Create tinder on your site. Create a series that is highly shareable. Perhaps it is about a current issue that everyone has an opinion on, some breaking theory about your market, a top 10 list of some form, or a series of interviews with luminaries. Their goal is to raise awareness and traction for your content. So think about what you could create that people would find value in and immediately want to share. Ask yourself, would I retweet this, or share it on Facebook? If you can't answer yes, others won't, either. 1 caveat, avoid link baiting. Urban Dictionary Calm defines link bait as content placed on a website specifically for the purpose of enticing people to link to it. You must strike a balance between fanning your own would-be fire and relying on link baiting to gain, what is at best a temporary audience. Use nuance. It may be perfectly appropriate to include the names of industry influencers in your content just so you get on their radar. But always make sure that you are doing it with purpose and substance, a reason beyond just getting their attention. Remember what we said about a quick layer-up. Style is pretty, but substance sustains. Ultimately, you want as much of your content as possible to be shared around the web. You want people talking about it, commenting on it, and sharing their reactions to it. Even though any press is good press, it is better to get attention because of high-quality content rather than link bait consisting of a gratuitous new top 10 list of influencers. Finding the bigger sticks. So the kindling is ignited. You've got something going, people know about it, and some are visiting your site regularly. Now it's time to give them something more. In other words, you must continually feed the fire for people to want to keep coming back to it. A steady stream of good content is necessary. Here's where you need to create a publishing schedule or editorial calendar, as we discussed in Chapter 5. The plan doesn't have to be set in stone or scheduled further out than the next 3 or 6 months. If it is easier, lay out by quarter or season how you plan to attack your content stream. This is also where you begin to build momentum based on what you will be creating and when it's scheduled, as we also discussed in detail in Chapter 5. If you've determined that you are going to do a webinar next month, what are you going to put in place in the weeks leading up to it to generate interest, conversation, and sign-ups? After you've conducted the webinar, what are you going to do to reimagine the content for further use to keep the attendees and others engaged? So while each piece of content is reimagined within the content food chain, it's also tossing fuel on the fire. Regularly dependable, reoccurring, reimagined content is the key. This is how you should be thinking about each piece of content you create, every time. Singing campfire songs. The best part of building a campfire is having friends and strangers gather around it, creating a sense of community. While you most likely won't have anyone with a guitar strumming out campfire and other camp favorites on your site, although that could be strangely cool in today's YouTube world. You do want to build up and foster your community as much as possible. One key consideration, which needs to be communicated to executives at your company, is that community takes time to develop. A community cannot be forced, manipulated, or magically conjured. And, as with most other things in life, quality trumps quantity. It's better to build a smaller community of people who actually are interested in you than it is to build a huge community of meh. Why doesn't my content have any comments? People revisit a site for numerous reasons. They find the content compelling and interesting. They like the conversation that happens in the comments or discussion forums. They enjoy, as experts, helping others. They want to be seen, for their own gain, as members of a community. Some of your most committed followers might be the most silent, because they are simply there to learn. With social platforms like Google Buzz, Twitter, and Facebook increasingly fragmenting conversations, the number of blog comments might not appear as robust as in the recent past. Never judge the success of your content solely on the number of comments, likes, or thumbs ups you get. That feedback is part of the story, but it is certainly not the whole story. The key to keeping them coming back is new, fresh, and relevant content. The moment you stop publishing is the moment you start losing your community. If you aren't out there consistently, you'll one get left behind, says Frank Days, director of social media for Novell. Telling stories by the campfire light. You, as the host, have the job of leading the stories around the campfire you have built. Just like the spooky stories we remember from our youth, the best stories are those that connect with the people listening, so that they can then take them and share with others. Campfires of today are DNA deep. They are not where all the people are, because all the people are not in one place anymore. Chris Brogan, co-author of Trust Agents Won Wiley & Sons, 2009, said this in his Blog World 2009 keynote speech. He then reminded the audience, your awesome site isn't awesome. Getting your stories into the hands of the people who need them is awesome. We said earlier that passion is contagious. Your passion will shine through in your content. And if it triggers an emotional reaction from your audience, then they are more likely to share it with others. Sharing does not mean plagiarizing or pirating your content. Rather, when your story is good enough, people will share it with their own communities. Thanks to the nature and etiquette of the web, whenever someone quotes or talks about something you've created, that person will link to the original source. They can also directly embed your video or photography content on their own site in addition to adding a link. So instead of viewing your story or content as a static and pristine object owned by your site, think of it as a social object that can be taken, retooled, and shared by others. What's a social object? That leads, heavily, to the next chapter.